The Return of Sherlock Holmes, 1905. Episode 11, The Adventure of the Missing Three-Quarter. Welcome back, fellow detectives. After the darkness of revolutionary conspiracies and decades-old secrets, you might be ready for something that seems lighter. A missing athlete, a crucial rugby match, and what appears to be a simple case of cold feet. But as we've learned, appearances in Holmes's world are rarely what they seem. Have you ever abandoned your responsibilities at the worst possible moment? What if I told you that sometimes the most urgent crises in our lives are invisible to those around us, and the bravest thing we can do is disappear? Prepare yourself for a case where Holmes must distinguish between selfish abandonment and desperate necessity. Picture yourself at Baker Street on a crisp winter morning in 1896. You're having breakfast with Holmes and Watson when a telegram arrives, marked urgent from Cambridge. Holmes reads it aloud. Please come at once. Godfrey Staunton has disappeared. Match tomorrow depends on finding him. Cyril Overton, captain, Cambridge rugby team. Watson looks puzzled. Godfrey Staunton. The name is familiar. Holmes nods. He's quite famous in sporting circles, considered one of the finest rugby three-quarters in England. Young, wealthy, athletic, the Cambridge team's star player. And apparently, he's vanished on the eve of their most important match of the season. Seems rather trivial for Sherlock Holmes, you observe. A missing athlete who probably got cold feet or went on a drinking spree. But Holmes's expression is thoughtful. Perhaps, but consider this. Why would a wealthy, successful athlete with everything to gain from playing in tomorrow's match suddenly disappear without explanation? There's usually a compelling reason when someone abandons their responsibilities so completely. Think about this, detective. What could make a dedicated athlete walk away from the biggest game of his career? Money problems? Blackmail? Family emergency? Keep these possibilities in mind as the case unfolds. The journey to Cambridge brings you to the university just as the rugby team is finishing practice. Cyril Overton rushes to meet you, a sturdy young man, clearly the team captain, his face drawn with worry and frustration. Thank God you've come, Mr. Holmes, Overton exclaims. Godfrey Staunton disappeared yesterday afternoon and we play Oxford tomorrow. Without him, we haven't a chance. He's irreplaceable, the best three-quarter I've ever seen. But more than that, he's my friend, and I'm desperately worried about him. Holmes gestures for Overton to sit and calm himself. Tell me everything about yesterday. When did you last see Staunton? And what was his state of mind? Overton takes a deep breath. Yesterday morning at practice, he seemed perfectly normal, focused, energetic, looking forward to the match. We had lunch together at the college hall, and he was in excellent spirits. Then around 2 o'clock, a porter delivered a telegram to his rooms. I didn't see what it said, but 10 minutes later, Godfrey came rushing out, white as a sheet, grabbed his coat, and ran out of the college without a word to anyone. That was the last time anyone saw him. Holmes leans forward with sharp interest. A telegram that caused such a dramatic reaction? Do you still have it? Or did Staunton take it with him? Overton shakes his head. He must have taken it. We searched his rooms. The telegram is gone, along with some money and a few personal items. But everything else is there. His rugby kit, his books, even his watch, which he never goes anywhere without. That suggests he left in tremendous hurry, Watson observes. Whatever that telegram contained, it was urgent enough to make him abandon everything. Holmes stands and begins pacing. Take me to Staunton's rooms. I need to see exactly what he left behind and what he took. Godfrey Staunton's rooms are those of a wealthy student, well-furnished, comfortable, showing signs of a life focused on both athletics and academics. Holmes examines everything with his magnifying glass. The desk, the wardrobe, the wastebasket. In the fireplace, he finds a few fragments of burned paper. He burned something before he left, Holmes announces, carefully extracting the fragments. Most are too damaged to read, but one piece shows part of an address, R.D. Street, Cambridge, and what might be part of a signature ending in Ove. Holmes pockets these fragments. Not much, but perhaps enough. Was Staunton engaged to be married? Holmes asks suddenly. Overton looks surprised. No, not that I know of. Why do you ask? Holmes points to a small photograph frame on the desk, now empty. Because there's a gap in the dust pattern here, as if a photograph stood in this frame until very recently. And young men of Staunton's age typically keep photographs of sweethearts, not family members who would be in larger, more prominent frames. Think about what Holmes is suggesting, Detective. Staunton had a secret relationship, a photograph he kept private, and when crisis struck, that photograph was one of the few things he took with him. What does this tell us about his priorities? Holmes visits the college porter who delivered the telegram. Can you remember where it came from? The porter checks his records. London, sir. Sent from a post office in the Strand. No return address, and it was prepaid, so there's no way to trace the sender. And Staunton's behavior when he received it? Holmes probes. The porter nods vigorously. Oh, he was terribly upset, sir. Went pale, staggered a bit as if he'd received terrible news. Then he ran out like the devil himself was chasing him. I called after him asking if he needed help, but he didn't even hear me. Holmes conducts inquiries around Cambridge, checking train stations, coaching inns, anywhere Staunton might have gone. Finally, at the railway station, they get a lead. A porter remembers a distressed young man matching Staunton's description, who took the afternoon train to London, asking urgently about the fastest route. London it is then, Holmes declares, but London is vast. How do we find one man in a city of millions? This is when Holmes demonstrates his particular genius. We follow the money. Staunton took cash when he left. Eventually, he'll need more. Watson, telegraph his bank and ask if he's withdrawn any funds in the past 24 hours. The response comes within hours. Godfrey Staunton visited his London bank branch that very morning, withdrawing a substantial sum, £50, which suggests either a long journey or expensive medical care. Medical care, Holmes murmurs. That would explain the urgency. Someone Staunton cares about deeply is ill or injured, and he's gone to them. But how to find where Staunton went from the bank? Holmes employs one of his more unusual methods. We need a dog, Watson. Specifically, we need Pompey. Pompey turns out to be a large, enthusiastic bloodhound owned by one of Holmes's contacts in London. Holmes explains his plan. We'll take Pompey to Staunton's bank, let him smell a piece of Staunton's clothing that Overton provided, and then track his scent from the bank to wherever he went. A bloodhound. Overton looks skeptical. In London, surely the scent will be lost among thousands of other people. But Holmes smiles. Pompey is exceptional. Besides, we're not tracking Staunton himself. We're tracking the cab he took from the bank. Horses leave a distinctive scent trail, and Pompey can follow a specific horse through the busiest streets. The tracking begins at the bank, and incredibly, Pompey picks up a trail leading south through London. Holmes, Watson, and Overton follow the energetic hound through street after street, watching as he unerringly follows some invisible scent trail that only he can detect. Think about the brilliance of this method, Detective. When conventional investigation fails, Holmes adapts, using every tool available, even a bloodhound's superior senses, to find his quarry. After more than an hour, Pompey leads them to a respectable street in Lower Brixton and stops before a modest house. The dog sits and barks, indicating he's found what he was searching for. Holmes examines the house carefully. It's well maintained but not wealthy, with closed curtains suggesting occupants who value privacy. This is where Staunton came, Holmes announces. But why? What's in this house that would cause him to abandon everything? Overton moves toward the door, but Holmes stops him. Wait. Before we barge in demanding answers, consider that Staunton had good reason for his secrecy. Let me approach this delicately. Holmes knocks, and an elderly housekeeper answers, her eyes red from recent crying. We're looking for Mr. Godfrey Staunton, Holmes says gently. We're not here to cause trouble. We're simply concerned about him. The housekeeper's face crumples. Oh, the poor young man. Upstairs with her he is. Been there all night and all day. Won't leave her side. Her? Holmes asks quietly. Someone is ill? The housekeeper nods, tears streaming. His wife, poor dear. Dying of consumption she is. The doctor says she has only hours left. Mr. Staunton married her in secret 3 months ago. She was a barmaid, you see, far below his station. His wealthy uncle would have disowned him if it came out. But he loved her truly, and now he's losing her. The full tragedy unfolds before them. Godfrey Staunton had fallen in love with a working-class girl and married her secretly, knowing his aristocratic family would never approve. He'd set her up in this modest house, visiting whenever he could steal away from Cambridge. Then consumption struck, the deadly disease that killed thousands in Victorian England. Yesterday's telegram informed him she'd taken a turn for the worse. The housekeeper explains through her tears. The doctor said she had only a day or two left, so he came immediately, abandoned everything, because being with her mattered more than anything else in the world. Holmes's voice is very gentle. May we see him? We won't intrude long, I promise. The housekeeper leads them upstairs to a small bedroom where Godfrey Staunton sits beside a bed, holding the hand of a young woman, pretty once, now ravaged by disease, struggling for each breath. Staunton looks up as they enter, his face haggard from grief and sleeplessness. Overton? Holmes? How did you find me? His voice is barely a whisper, and he doesn't release his wife's hand even to greet them. I'm sorry about the match. I know I've let everyone down, but I couldn't leave her to die alone. Overton's anger evaporates instantly, replaced by sympathy. My God, Godfrey. I had no idea you were married. Why didn't you tell us? Staunton looks at his dying wife with infinite tenderness. Because everyone would have tried to stop me. They'd have said she was beneath me, that I was ruining my prospects. But she's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'd give up Rugby, Cambridge, my inheritance, everything, for just one more day with her. Can you feel the tragic beauty of this moment, Detective? A man choosing love over ambition, presence over glory, sitting vigil while everything he's worked for crumbles around him, because nothing matters except being there when the person he loves takes their last breath. Holmes withdraws quietly, gesturing for Overton to follow. We should leave them alone. This is a private moment, not something strangers should intrude upon. Outside the room, Overton looks shaken. All this time he's been carrying this secret. Married, supporting a wife, watching her die slowly. And we thought he was just a carefree athlete. Watson the doctor speaks quietly. Consumption is cruel. It wastes people away slowly, giving them time to say goodbye but taking everything from them piece by piece. That young woman won't see tomorrow's sunset. Staunton knows it, and he chose to spend her final hours with her rather than playing in a rugby match. Was it the right choice, you ask? Overton answers without hesitation. Of course it was. Some things are more important than sport. I'll tell the team the truth, that Godfrey is where he should be, doing what he should be doing. We'll play Oxford without him and probably lose, but we'll understand why. Holmes arranges for a noted physician to visit Mrs. Staunton, though everyone knows it's futile. Consumption in its final stages is beyond Victorian medicine's power to cure. The doctor confirms she has hours at most and prescribes morphine to ease her suffering. That evening, as the Cambridge team prepares for their match without their star player, Godfrey Staunton sits in a dim bedroom holding his wife's hand as she slips away. She dies just after midnight, quietly, with her husband beside her whispering that he loves her. The next day's newspapers report Cambridge's crushing defeat by Oxford, the worst loss in decades. But they don't report the real story, that their missing three-quarter was attending his wife's deathbed, choosing love over glory in the most profound way possible. A week later, Staunton visits Baker Street to thank Holmes for his discretion. You could have exposed my secret marriage to the newspapers, ruined my reputation entirely. Instead, you kept it private. Let me be with my wife in her final hours. I'm grateful beyond words. Holmes waves away the thanks. Mr. Staunton, I'm a detective, not a scandal-monger. Your private life is your own affair. Besides, you made the right choice. No rugby match, no matter how important, compares to being with someone you love when they need you most. My uncle found out anyway, Staunton says with a sad smile. He's disowned me, cut me off without a penny. But I don't regret anything. I had 3 months of happiness with her, and I was there when she died. That's worth more than any inheritance. After Staunton leaves, Watson reflects on the case. This wasn't really a mystery at all, was it? Just a private tragedy that we intruded upon. But Holmes shakes his head. It was a mystery until we understood the motivation. Why would a successful athlete abandon his responsibilities? The answer, because something more important demanded his attention. That's a lesson worth remembering. What strikes me, Holmes continues, is how quick we are to judge people without knowing their circumstances. The Cambridge team thought Staunton was selfish or cowardly for disappearing. His uncle thought he'd disgraced the family by marrying beneath his station. But the truth was that he'd made the most courageous choice possible, following his heart, despite the consequences. Think about this lesson, detective. How many times do we judge people's actions without understanding their reasons? How many mysteries in life are simply failures of compassion, failures to imagine the burdens others carry? So tell me, detective, did you guess that Staunton's disappearance involved a loved one's illness? Could you understand why he chose his dying wife over his rugby career? And what does this case teach us about the difference between abandoning responsibility and honoring deeper obligations? This poignant case reminds us that not every mystery involves crimes or villains. Sometimes the greatest mysteries are simply the private struggles of ordinary people trying to do right by those they love. Godfrey Staunton's crime was choosing love over duty, but in doing so he demonstrated more courage than many heroes. It also shows us Holmes at his most compassionate, a detective who could have exposed secrets but chose instead to protect a grieving man's privacy. The great detective understood that sometimes the kindest thing we can do is allow people their private sorrows without turning them into public spectacles. Join me next time as we investigate The Adventure of the Abbey Grange, where Holmes must decide whether to help the police solve a murder or to let a justified act of violence go unpunished when the victim was himself a monster.